Ready, set, go.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot, an Up Dog podcast. I'm Andrea Morissette.
And I'm Kat Faley.
And we're your hosts today. Kat's going to be co-hosting with me today because our very special guest is Jack Faley. So give it up for our guest today.
Woo-woo.
Blocked out all of Kat's head with your hello, Jack. Yeah. We're going to be talking about the origins of Throw and Go today. And the perfect person to chat with that about is Mr. Jack Faley. Now, we all know Jack, of course. So do you want to give a quick summary of who you are, Jack? Just like 3 seconds or less?
I mean, I think, like you said, I've already talked quite a bit on this podcast. People know a lot about me, but I would like to say that we just got a new puppy. And we finally came up with a name. We think it's sticking. We're going with Doc Brown because he's a nice chocolatey brown pup. And he's been getting better. Hasn't been keeping us up as much at night. He's good for about 6 hours now, which is amazing. So anyway, crossing our fingers that he turns into a little disc star. I think he'll be good.
Oh, he looks like he's got lightning in his veins with those eyes wide open and ready all the time. I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be a superstar. I'm happy that you guys finally settled on a name. Doc Brown it is. So we can let our community know. Thank you for the recommendations that everybody threw our way.
That's right. That's right. And the voting, I was disappointed in lots of people for the Johnny Utah voting. Johnny Utah got like 37% of the votes, and like Doc got 70 or 60 something, 63 or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was a runaway.
The truth is hard sometimes, Jack. You know,
I know.
We're attached to what we really like, and the rest of the community just liked the other name better. So
yep. I just told Kat that she now has to just refer to me as Johnny Utah. So that's cool.
I mean, Keanu Reeves is pretty hot in that movie. So
someday we'll have a Johnny Utah, I think. Just this dog wasn't it.
Yeah, a little chiller of a dog, I think. I think Doc Brown has a lot of energy, and so does your little dude. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's get to that throw and go topic now that we learned a little bit more about Jack's new puppy, Doc Brown. And Kat, since you are a co-host today, do you want to ask our first question?
I will. I can. All right, Jack. When UpDog was trying to create a new type of disc dog organization, why did we decide to make one of our first 3 games very similar to one that every other disc organization in the world has?
That is a great question, Kat. I mean, it really is because, obviously the other 2 games are nothing like anything else that was out there. I mean, some people kind of think that 4-way play and Bullseye is similar. I guess they're similar in that you stand in the middle, but other than that, I don't know what I think that's where the similarities stop. But anyways, throw and go, and the idea of creating a toss and fetch game was really about just trying to bring people in easily. Distance accuracy, toss and catch, whatever you call it, throw and go. Playing fetch in the backyard. That's like one of the first games that a lot of young disc dogs do and a lot of novice players do. And so we just felt like we do need a foundational game that people are comfortable with, that they know something about, so that they come and they want to try our organization. If every one of our 3 games was something they'd never heard of and had their dog moving in different ways that they've never moved before, we may not have had as many current disc doggers try UpDog out. So it really was kind of to bring in those folks that have been playing in their backyard or had been playing at other organizations to give UpDog a shot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because when we were talking about Frizzagility, we were really talking about trying to bring in crossover sports. And it was that same concept, right? Giving agility people something they can be successful with right away. And even to the point where they were better than disc doggers, where they could just come in and kind of stomp us through the agility game. So I do remember that was one of the first games that the more veteran disc doggers were willing to play right away, where there was more resistance to the other types of games. The throw and go game has been pretty consistently accepted across the board.
Right. And I still think even to this day, Kat can correct me, but I think it's, if not the most popular, one of the most popular games in terms of the number of runs at UpDiff.
It is
Yeah.
this year.
The most
2025. Yep.
the most
Most
popular,
competitive.
yeah.
Also, like, there's different strategies for it, but really it's a very competitive game. And I guess you could say the same thing about four-way play and fragility. Also, those are, they have high numbers in those games, and it's really the people that are edging out the world record every time that are winning those games at UpDiff. But I like seeing level two at UpDiff and then really seeing people push the distance. So that's where I'm kind of thinking that competitive nature is there aren't so many short game strategies when you get to UpDiff for throw and go. It's go big or go home. So that's been pretty cool to see. Did your opinions about the rules of toss and fetch, or whatever we call it in different organizations, did that have any impact on the throw and go rules?
A little bit. I mean, I have strong opinions about toss and fetch, that type of a game, throw and go, whatever. I don't think it's a great foundational game for a young dog. I think it patterns a dog quite a bit. It certainly doesn't open up their thinking as they're out on the field. Like they're just racing downfield and, opening up their mouth at 30 yards because that's how far their thrower can throw, and they expect the disc to be like, right up in the air above their head. And so really it definitely impacted my thought as to whether or not we should even have the game, because I like I said, I just have some reservations about it. I think if you're playing other games as well, like if I'm starting my young puppy out and I'm playing throw and go or toss and fetch or whatever you want to call it, but I'm also playing four-way play and fragility, I think you're good to go. I think you're building lots of different skills with your puppy. It's when a dog only gets the foundation of out and back, out and back, out and back, and that's their foundation for, like, the first year of their disc dogging life or something. Then you definitely have some challenges when you say, "Oh gosh, I'd like to play another game." We've talked about that, Dre. I know I'm bringing freestyle up already. We've talked about that with freestyle. Like, that's why it's such a hard transition in some of the other venues to go from the only other game that they have, which is some version of toss and fetch, to
Mhm.
freestyle.
That's literally how I'm
Because
talking.
it's limited skills, limited skill sets happening. So when we came up with the different rules that kind of set throw and go apart from toss and fetch, I really just think we're like, it's hard to take that game another direction and have it still be the same out and back game, because that's what we
Awesome.
wanted it to be. But we
Right.
also wanted to switch it up a little bit, and we knew there was no other organization that allowed two discs. Every other organization, you only get one disc. You can bring a second disc to the line, like if your dog happens to destroy a disc, but you definitely can't play with the two discs. And so
Right.
that was a big one that we brought in. That was a big change. Throw and go. When I thought about throw and go, it helped define our field. Like throw and go helped me figure out what the field would look like. Those 15 sections out on the field, the 10-yard bonus strip. I always liked the bonus strip in USDDN. But I also felt like it was a little narrow. Sometimes it seemed like the luck of the draw, if you got good wind or something, that you were able to get it in that 5-yard bonus strip. So then I was thinking, well, what if we had a 10-yard bonus strip and the sides were a little bit shorter? Those could be, challenging in other games for you to hit those smaller zones. So throw and go definitely helped me kind of figure out what the field was going to look like. But really, it was just what could we come up with as a few different rules. So the bonus strip was a different rule. The two discs was a different rule. And of course, a sweet spot bonus is not something anybody had either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jack, oh, go ahead, Dre.
So that was it.
Okay. Why are the score zones or points so much higher in throw and go than other toss and fetch games? Why did we do that?
Well, it was trying to figure out how to reward a team for being accurate, and to make it somewhat easy to do that. Like for instance, most other organizations, you get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are the zones or whatever. And I wanted to reward somebody. So like in all of our updog games, again, you guys know as players, there's multiple ways for success, multiple ways to be successful. In throw and go, especially level 1, because that's where everyone is playing. You don't have to be a highly skilled, highly practiced player to play level 1. So we wanted level 1 to be like, hey, different strategies could be successful here. If you can throw a 25-yard throw consistently down the middle, we want to reward you for that. And if you can throw 40 yards down the field and, maybe you're not quite as consistent as that person that's throwing 25, but you can get a couple in the middle and maybe a couple on the outskirts. Trying to design a scoring system at level 1 where somebody that can throw shorter but keep it consistently down the middle might be able to be competitive with somebody who can throw further. But when you throw further down the field, of course, sometimes it'll go off to the left or the right a little bit more because you're more susceptible to the wind. You're more susceptible to a slight imperfection in your release. So really, there's level 1. There's multiple ways to kind of be successful, but that scoring system kind of had to be worked out with the doubling of the points, and that's why, no other organization, you're not walking off the field going, "Yeah, I got 50 points." That would be something you might do in 2 rounds or something like that.
Yeah, the normal bonus is like half point, or
Right.
I think it's UFO that has the stacking ones, right? Or is that
Yes.
AWI?
Yeah.
So UFO is like half point and then 1 point and then 1.5 points and 2 points. So that's kind of a fun. And then AWI, USDDN, and Skyhounds all have half point, I think.
Well,
Skyhounds are 4 point.
Skyhounds is just the half point for the anti-gravity, whereas
Right.
USDDN has half point for the anti-gravity and for the
UFO
bonus strip.
don't have anti-gravity anymore.
Who?
AWI and UFO don't have anti-gravity. Right. There's no in-air bonus, just the accuracy bonus, and UFO stacks and AWI's doesn't. And then
why didn't we do an anti-gravity bonus?
I just thought that, as a player, I always thought that it was kind of
a bummer.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Subjective, like obviously if your dog makes a clear large jump, then yes, you're going to get the half points. But sometimes depending on the judge who was standing there, it might look like the dog caught it in stride and it really wasn't a big jump, but you got the half point. And then another person who went 3 hours later with a different judge, maybe they didn't get the half point. So I just figured that let's just take that out of it. I didn't feel like it was necessary for this game.
We have enough bonuses, I think, with the doubling in the middle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does make it a lot more challenging to judge and have consistency throughout and the stride conversation. But I also think it's a bummer if you happen to have like a super skilled toss and fetch dog that just doesn't jump. And then you're automatically at a deficit in every other organization, right? Other than UFO and AWI have now taken it out. But that's just one of those things. If you have a dog that doesn't jump and toss and fetch and you want to be competitive on a world level, that's on average a half a point per catch, which is 2.5 points at the end of the round. That's a catch or not catch. That's a deal breaker. Like you can't make up 2.5 points every single time. Somebody's going to hit it with air bonuses. So that's one of those things that I just didn't want that to be the separator. So for beta testing, I don't remember this. Did we always have 2 discs or did we just start with 1?
I think that we always had 2 discs, but I don't think that we played around with because I do remember beta testing where you didn't have to have both discs behind the line. Where I start with 2 discs and my dog might leave one out at the 30-yard line, and as long as I had that other disc, I could still keep playing. I don't remember other than just trying both different ways and talking to people about which one they liked or which one made more sense. I can't remember really why we went with both discs need to be behind the line. There's what's
I
that?
mean, it's got to be retrieval, right? Like as a skill built. That's
Sure.
like two main skills for a dog being built in toss and fetch are tracking and collection, being able to track a disc at a long distance while they're running, right? And retrieval. And that's what retrieval is the thing that makes all the difference, especially in level one strategy. Like if you don't have good retrieval, you're not going to be competitive with a short game. Like it's all about that retrieval, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we did settle on that. I just don't know if that was the conversation or not. That makes sense, Dre, but I don't know what the reasoning was as to why we did it that way, but I'm glad that we did for that reason. Like we're building a skill set. You've got that second disc at the line. It makes it easy to train that drop,
Mm-hmm.
and that go. And we have plenty of other games where, you need that one disc back that builds that additional strategy of no, I need all of these discs back to my hand.
Yeah, that
Um,
adds another thing.
Dre just brought up the level one strategy with the short game. What are your thoughts on that? On that being currently the winning strategy in level one, the short, to the 6 or to the 8 and quick return.
Um, I'm good with it at level one. Like I like the fact that at level one you could you could win either way. Um, Honestly, probably at level one, the short strategy, if you have a quick handoff, the short throw strategy, like if you can get it, there's some clinicians, man, that just they're super good at it. Um, that they can get just across like that 20-yard line so that they're not wasting any additional time. They're not wasting any distance with their dog going to to the end of the zone. They're getting just across the line, coming back, quick handoff. Those are all skills too, and I'll be honest, at first I didn't like it because in my head I was like, no, that's
Wasn't the
not,
intent of the game.
throw and go. That's not the game. But then I was just like, hey, these people, figured out strategies. This is what we wanted. We wanted different people to play different ways and get the points. I'm all for it for level one. And Kat, I don't know if you want me to go into my thoughts on level two, or if that's a different question or something. But I'll just say, like, for level two, like, this is called throw and go. So we do, like, one of the skills that we want people to pick up is how do I throw further? We want them to like push themselves and to see like if I can only throw 20 yards, well, what if you changed your stance? What if you worked on your muscle memory with your throw? Could you get it out to 30? Like keep trying for that further distance. If there's not a reward for them, if there's not a benefit for them to throw further out, then they're not going to do it. So when we designed level two and the scoring for level two, we wanted to make sure that if you're a good
Create the same
thrower,
problem.
well, if you're a good thrower and you can throw to the 40s and get 5 40s, no one's going to beat you from the short distances. And I think that that's still the case.
Yeah.
Now, if you only throw 4 throws to the longest zone, and somebody like is a clinician with a short throw and they can maybe get a couple into the sweet spot and get back quickly, then they might catch you. But that was your fault. Why didn't you throw why didn't you throw them all to the
I think your
15
dog
zone?
fast enough to get 540s, Jack.
Well, that's true. That's true. If you have a dog that's not fast enough, then
You have
I
a
mean,
smaller
if you
dog, a
get
mini
so
dog.
if you get 4 15s, that's 60, and if you time it right and you get the sweet spot bonus, that's 65. Um, if you are playing level two, you can't get a 6 point catch. The doubling doesn't happen until the sweet spot. So you've got to get just over the sweet spot. You're going to have a pretty perfect round in order to beat my 65. Now you could still do it, but you wouldn't do it if I had gotten a fifth toss.
Right.
So I don't know. Like I kind of feel like I've thought a couple times about like maybe the doubling shouldn't happen until the
30-yard zone.
yeah,
That's where
until the 30-yard zone to the 30 to 40. But I mean, it is what it is right now. I think that Like I said, right now I feel like yes, if I'm a person who throws to the far zones, I could get beat by somebody who throws to the shorter zones, but only if I have a mess up and only if they have perfection.
And we want that.
Yeah.
But that's a good balance, I think, because I think if people don't have the technical skill to throw further, they need to have a higher level of retrieval skill in order to compete with somebody who does have a higher level of throwing skill. Otherwise, it's not a long distance throwing game.
Right.
It's a team throwing game, which is what our other games are. So we already
Right.
have lots of examples where people can fully experience the game at a super high level just throwing to distance to the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's my thing with the short strategy and throw and go level 1. It's like, well, we already have a game that rewards that. It's called Time Warp. And as a spectator, it's less interesting to watch than throwing long. So I don't love it.
You're so mean, Kat.
I get it. I get it, but I don't love it for those two reasons. Like it's called throw and go. It's not called throw and sort of go. But you know, whatever works, you know.
Like I said, I've had thoughts about bringing up, should we just double the last two zones and not the first three, so that at least you force people out to go to 30. And really, again, that's what these games are trying to do, is challenge your skill sets and keep pushing you to grow. So if you could do it at level 1, great. But then when you go to level 2, no, this is now you got to push yourself to really get out to the 30. So I don't know. I'm not saying it won't change in the future. We always look at the results and things, and if we end up having folks that are killing it at the 22-yard throw, we may find that we make some changes. But
We have a level
It could
3,
be.
maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say level 3 can be just the last two zones, right?
it could be, and then that's probably what we would play it up to if we did that.
Yeah. Speaking of sweet spots, why did we create an active sweet spot along with our passive sweet spot? Because I know we have passive sweet spots for all our other games. You could just go sit behind in the zone, the sweet spot, and just sit and get your points if your round falls apart. But for throw and go, you're behind the line. So I think our original active, the static sweet spot's just staying behind the line. But why did we create the active one?
I think it was quite a while that we had the passive one, meaning at least like a year or so.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that we had. But what we started to see, which was not like the rest of our games, like, in four-way play, fragility, let's say, both of those games, if you're trying to get the sweet spot, you could also be doing other things to get points right before you run into the sweet spot. You can take that last jump. You can try to get that last, four-way play zone and then jump into the sweet spot. What we found people doing in throw and go, especially newer players, that didn't maybe have the confidence, is they didn't want to make another 20-yard throw because they were worried that their dog wouldn't make it back to get the sweet spot bonus.
Mm.
And so we would get a lot of, okay, my dog's back. I've got 12 seconds left.
10 seconds, they just sit there and tug.
I'm not going to throw. So then I would just sit there and tug with my dog for, 10 seconds so that I could get the sweet spot bonus. And we were like, well, that's not really the spirit of the game. This is throw and go. Again, like Kat said, not throw and sort of go, and also not, throw and stay here with me. So we said, well, what if we didn't want to get rid of the passive sweet spot because that had been something we had been using for a while. And then we said, but what if we gave the option of, hey, if you want to go for it and you want to see if you can get another catch, we'll give you that opportunity to get that active sweet spot bonus. And that's when that whole timing thing came into play. Like, you need to, the throw needs to happen before the tee in time, but your dog catches it after the tee in time, which is another skill set for a player that's got a little bit more practice under their belt. And I think I like it. I think it worked out nicely to have both the passive and the active, so that if you're a thrower, man, and you want to go get those extra points, go for it, and see if you can't pick up that sweet spot bonus along the way as well.
I think it helps like players that play in other organizations getting used to that active sweet spot and working under that pressure, like that helps with the pressure of, toss and fetch in other organizations. So it's that in and of itself is a skill builder.
Yep. No sweet spot bonus in those organizations though,
No.
because they're lame.
And the sweet spot bonus just has to be past the sweet spot. So, right, it doesn't have
Right.
to be in the sweet spot. So and I know that's in the rules and it's not necessarily a topic of contention, but that's just something to notice in regards to our conversation about wanting people to throw longer. We're not just saying throw to the 20 either. You can still get the
Right.
sweet spot bonus if you throw to the 30, and if you go for it to the 40, you still get that bonus as long as it's sweet spot or longer.
Yeah, originally when the active sweet spot first came out, it was just to the sweet spot. And then I don't know, months later, year later, I don't know how long.
I don't think it was that long. I
it
think
wasn't too long.
yeah, I think we realized the error of our ways quickly on that one.
But
Deterring
again,
people from throwing longer, which we
right,
wanted.
it's throw and go. We want you to go. So why wouldn't we reward you for throwing past the sweet spot?
Right, right.
That game evolved a lot in the first several years. Some games don't evolve much once they get out, but that one evolved multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of old virtual player meeting type stuff that had to get canned, like, okay, now that one's no good. Now I got to make a new video. Now I got to make a new video. Like that definitely, like you said, it's gone through changes. And it is interesting how some games do and other games don't really. Like they kind of come out and they pretty much stay the same most of the time.
Yeah. So I think we've touched on it multiple
Yeah.
times in terms of like what skills this game teaches. Are there any others that maybe we haven't talked about, or what do you like I said, are there any others that we haven't talked about? We talked about the pressure scenario, we talked about throwing long, throwing accurately. Like what else is this game supposed to teach you?
Well, I think like Dre was talking about, retrieval is a big thing, and then bringing to your hand is obviously much better than dropping it at the 10-yard line, and then I gotta go run out and grab it.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Leaf started doing that.
So, like working different skills like that, can I get my dog to return to my hand? And then once my dog does return to my hand, do I have a drop or a give in my hand so that I can, have my dog go around and make a quick throw? Just even the easiest, I think, foundational flat work move of like a go around, setting your dog up so that they're lined up with where you're going to throw. It teaches that early. There's lots of skills there. So I think it's beneficial in that way, but like I said before, I just don't think it should be played in isolation of other types of games or other strategies, because then your dog gets very patterned and they stop thinking out there on the field.
Yeah. I think we talked about why we play level 2 at Updiff already. So I don't think we need to cover that again, but are there any other straight ahead fetch games that are in the works for Updog? Do we have any of those in the pipeline? This is news to me, if we do.
I mean, we do, but the ones that I can think of off the top of my head are actually pairs games. I think Kat mentioned the one that we had, the one that got ditched that we had where you could throw from either end of the field. Is a variation that then I got rid of it because it just, in beta testing, it didn't work great, but I think it would work great as a pairs game. Essentially you have a person at either end so it's basically pairs throw and go, except you can position yourselves at opposite ends of the field so that when your dog catches, so let's say you throw,
bring it to the person.
Yeah, they bring it to the other person and then they throw back to that person.
We can make that a variation of throw and go. We can make it like throw and go pairs level 2.
There you go.
Could be play on the opposite side for the pair. That's definitely an elevation of the dog just bringing it back to the same spot over and over again.
And I think it would be fun. There would be more catches that could happen.
They don't have to retrieve play back.
Right. You're making use of your dog's motion going back by catching another catch. And I also think that so one of the things that I thought we could do in that is if you don't throw that far, so like one person could stand at the throwing edge of the field and the other person might stand at the 30-yard line. So like before you begin the round, you kind of define your field by how far you and your partner can
You
throw.
don't maybe even stand down at the end of the field if you can't throw that far.
Right, exactly.
What
Play on a
about
20, you could play on a sweet spot field. Just ping
I
back
mean,
and forth.
you could if that, but you won't get as many points, obviously, because the further that your dog gets catches, the more points you would get. What were we gonna say?
I know the game's not fleshed out, but like I just had the thought that of the strategy of if your dog is not used to playing with both people, could you define your field to where if I'm throwing, like you're throwing from the actual, regular throw line, and I'm, at the 20-yard line on the other side because I can only throw 35 yards, could you throw past me and get points? And then that way it's easier for the dog to come back to me to play versus going on to me to play. Does that make sense?
I think it could be one or the other.
Like I didn't
Yeah,
know
where
if
where
once
you
we
throw from doesn't matter.
Yeah, it could be
didn't know-
one. Go ahead, Kat. Sorry.
if once you defined your field, if you could only throw to where I was, or if you could throw past where I was.
Well, like you said, the rules aren't totally set in stone, but I think it could be either. So like
Yeah.
you could stand, like you said, at the 30. If you and I were playing, I would want to throw all the way to the last zone. Maybe you might stand at the 30, like you said. So I throw to Remix. He catches in the 5th zone down. He starts heading back toward me. And as he's heading back toward me, you chuck one in my direction and he catches it in the zone in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at first I was thinking like this is going to be tough to play. A lot of time when people play pairs games, they just grab another person and a dog, but that dog may not be willing to go back and forth between the people. But in that
Right.
strategy, a dog would be more likely to
Yep.
play with both people. So
Yeah, you might have to I don't know, we might have to say you have to stand on one of the
Right, so you don't get nailed.
side strips so you don't get smacked in the head with the disc or something.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have to
That
run
could
the
be
line.
fun.
Okay, new game. I love it. Pairs level 2 throw and go. Hurry up and write that up. Make a video, Jack. I think that's the end of
Coming
our
to UpDiff 2020 something.
2028. We know it's going to be happening in the next 5 years, but we can't promise anything.
right.
Are you feeling time warpy, Jack?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ready?
All
All
right.
right, this is fun because Jack writes our time warp questions, and now we get to ask him our time warp questions.
I wrote these like a month ago though, so I don't know really. I'm sure I'll remember them when I hear them, but I don't know
Very
I don't know what to expect yet. So
Am I asking the first question or are you?
We're asking the first question, and I got the timer.
All
Okay,
right.
you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Ready, set, go.
What type of food truck would you like to see at UpDiff?
Let's take notes.
Mexican,
All right, noted. What celebrity would you like to meet?
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
What was the last thing you ordered from Amazon?
plastic, like thin plastic sheets.
Okay. Would you rather drive or be a passenger?
Drive,
What's your favorite UpDog game?
30 seconds.
freestyle.
Yes, finally. What should your new puppy's name be?
Johnny Utah.
What is your
20
favorite disc to throw?
Superstar.
You are an actress starring in a romantic comedy. What's the title?
An actress.
I didn't write it. Bubbles. I'm answering for you.
running out.
I
4
know
seconds.
time's running out. What would it be?
3, 2, 1.
I'm so
out of time,
beautiful.
buddy. What was it?
I'm so beautiful, he said.
Okay. So what's your favorite color, Jack?
I don't know. It used to be green, but like now I really do like the hot pink and the hot orange. I don't know. It's just kind of stuck with me. It ends up
Throw it
getting
on.
into my wardrobe too. Like I see like a hot orange shirt or some shoes that are that color that I never would have worn before. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get those.
Hot dog colors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
I would
you
say,
can ask the last question since we're way out of time.
yeah. What's the best thing about being retired?
Oh, not having to get dressed up in my tie and coat and drive an hour and a half to get to work. So I get to work on my time frame, and I get to be with Kat and the dogs and work on Updog stuff. So that's cool.
Well,
I will think of a better romantic comedy title that I will star in as the actress, and see if I can put it out in the comments. I got to come up with something. That was a tough one. I don't know why.
It stumped you. That just ended.
I stumped
ended the game.
myself. I
Yeah,
forgot that I wrote that. I think I had something in my head that I was going to say that was, you
Funny.
know,
Oh, you
like,
were
Clever.
pre-planning your answers? That's cheating.
yeah.
Cheating.
Well, it's hard not to think about what you would, do if you were asked the question, but I don't remember what my thought was.
Well, Jack, thank you for joining us as our guest on the podcast today. And Kat, thank you for being our co-host today. I am very grateful to get to do an episode with you. Don't forget, if you guys still have podcast topics, we do have a thread going on the discussion page. We're always pulling from there. So if you guys have a topic you want to hear, search for that and put it on the discussion page, or you can hit up me or Jack and just let us know that there's a topic that you want to hear, and we may jump right on that.
Dre, it was
And
great hosting with you and getting to put Jack in the hot seat this time around.
yeah,
We look forward to seeing all of you, our podcast listeners, soon. Hopefully, we'll see many of you at UpDiff.
the podheads.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, everyone, be kind to each other.
And be kind to your dogs.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Good job, Kat.
Refer to me as Johnny Utah.